Hello everybody and welcome to the fashion news. I started this little mini series back last January, I believe. January 2021, I started making these monthly fashion news roundups, talking about everything that's happened in the fashion industry in a way that was just digestible and fun and all of the news stories that I found interesting. However, I looked back and realised that I stopped filming those in June and I can only apologise. In total honesty, these are one of my favourite videos to film and the amount of requests I've had from you guys to carry on filming them has been amazing, so thank you so much for your feedback. The only reason I stopped filming them was getting too busy and the amount of research they needed to take, and I don't know, I just kind of fell off the wagon. Anyway, I am back for this year with the fashion news, and so seeing as we have not yet completed January 2022, I thought I'd kick off the first fashion news with the last 6 months of 2021. So going back to July 2021 up until December 2021, what were the most interesting and pivotal fashion stories for the industry? So these are all the stories that I think that you will find interesting and that I find interesting too. Right, let's head back to July 2021. One of the biggest fashion news stories was that LVMH, for any of you that aren't aware, LVMH is a fashion collective conglomerate. The LVMH kind of respectively stand for Louis Vuitton, Moet, Hennessy. And as a business, they own a plethora of likely a lot of your favourite brands. I mean, Louis Vuitton is in there, they bought Fenty, also bought shares in Off-White and Virgil Abloh, which is where my story is leading. They own so many brands that you'll know. I mean, Dior, Fendi, Loro Piana. They also own brands over 6 different categories. So they've got wines, they've got watches, fashion and goods, travel. They cover a broad spectrum and they're kind of known as the luxury house with 75 different brand houses beneath them. Anyway, I digress. LVMH invested in Virgil Abloh's brand, up to 60% of the shares. The hopes being that Virgil would be able to go on to be super creative on new brands and work with current brands on potential collaborations. I mean, Virgil became this incredible figure in the industry. He seemed to be everywhere, whether that was DJing, designing, socializing, partying, hanging out with the right people. He had so many friends and colleagues in the industry that absolutely adored him. And obviously LVMH saw that incredible talent and skill and creativity and wanted to give him a huge boost and investment in order to help him spread his wings as such, which of course is an incredible investment and an opportunity for Virgil Abloh. This, however, takes us to November, unfortunately, where Virgil Abloh very suddenly and sadly passed away due to a 2-year battle with cancer. Apparently he'd kept it completely private. He hadn't told many people apart from his family, in the hopes that people wouldn't treat him differently and he could continue the life he'd been living without there being any stigma or any feeling of sadness, I guess, surrounding him. And so I just could not believe it in November when I heard the news that he had passed at the age of 41. It was such an enormous loss for the industry, not only for Louis Vuitton, who he was a menswear designer for, his own brand Off-White, and all of the other brands that he also collaborated with, but also for the people that knew him and everyone that he had touched in the industry. It was just such an enormous sudden loss, and personally I just couldn't believe that it happened. So it definitely, for me, goes down as one of the most important moments of last year in the fashion industry and just one of the saddest by far. I'm sure you'd all heard about Virgil's passing, but I did want to put this into this video because it was just such a sad and enormous moment for the whole industry. Okay, so again in July, Phoebe Philo, who you may know as one of the most innovative and most loved designers, creative directors of Celine. She was with Chloe up until 2013. 2007, I believe, and she stayed with Celine until 2017, where she left. And I don't know if you remember the absolute furore about it. Everyone was up in arms because Phoebe had changed Celine into this uber cool, feminine yet modern chic styling. There was just nothing else like it in the industry. The silhouettes, the shapes, the little details that made this brand so modern and quietly feminine. It almost had this real like boss vibe to it with this simplistic sultriness. People just adored Celine for that reason. So when she left, it was like the tables had been turned and everyone was like, well, who's now going to take over Celine and keep this wonderful ball rolling here? However, Phoebe Philo had been working on her own line since 2006, from before she was going to move to Celine. And so now that she's left Celine, she's been obviously working away since 2017, and hopefully soon we will see the launch of her brand new collection. And I, for one, am so excited to see exactly what she brings out. Back in July 2021 was also Paris Couture Week, and there was one standout story that Jean Raymond was the first black designer to earn a spot in the Paris Couture Week lineup. I'm so glad we finally got to this point. I can't believe that this sort of opportunity had never been offered before to a wonderful black designer. So Jean Raymond was debuting his first collection for Paya Moss. I want to say Paya and not Pia. And of course, with it being couture, it's always allowed to be a little bit more outlandish and a little bit obscure and potentially unwearable in most situations. I thought his collection was just so fun. The whole context being around American advancements and inventions. So there was a woman wearing a mobile phone, and my favourite one was a woman dressed in an enormous peanut butter costume, which I thought was absolutely amazing. But I really wanted to include the story because I thought this was a really fantastic moment in the industry, and I'm just so pleased for Jean Raymond. Moving into August, we have Reebok being bought by Authentic Brands for 2.1 billion from Adidas. Must admit, I thought maybe it would have been worth more than that, but then again, the whole sportswear industry is so massive and split up amongst, you know, so many huge brands now. I mean, you've still obviously got Nike or Nike and Adidas or Adidas up at the top there. But I mean, there are so many other sportswear brands, and I always thought that Reebok was still really ahead of the game, but still, 2.1 billion, not to be snuffed at. So that was kind of it for August, but moving into September, of course, Fashion Month and New York Fashion Week finally made its comeback after the pandemic. I unfortunately didn't make my way over there, but I am definitely thinking about it for February, so I probably need to get my act together and start looking into that. New York Fashion Week for me over here in the UK, it's just such a long way to travel. And then it's the travelling back and the jet lag right into London Fashion Week that always kind of finishes me off. And so the times that I've done New York Fashion Week have always been so fantastic, but have left me exhausted, ready for the next 3 weeks worth of Fashion Week, which never bodes well. But there are some incredible designers at New York Fashion Week. I remember in the past, there was a wonderful season where I saw Zimmerman, Self Portrait, Jonathan Simkai, Proenza Schooler, oh my goodness me, I forgot, Victoria Beckham, all in New York, and it was such a brilliant year. And obviously over the years less brands have been showing, but mainly because of the pandemic things really did take a turn and it was pretty much cancelled. And so it was nice to see in September some brands heading back to New York for their shows. Brandon Maxwell, Moschino, Tom Brown, Gabriella Hearst, Veronica Beard, Rodarte, a huge number actually. The schedule massively surprised me, but it was so nice to see so many brands back at it again. I'd love to know from you guys though, do you still enjoy seeing all of the coverage that comes out from Fashion Month? Probably second week of February, New York will be kicking off, then London, then Milan, and then Paris. Even if you don't like looking at what's happening on influencers' feeds, for instance, do you still like going to Vogue and seeing them on there? Or do you like to see people's vlogs from the events? Like, how do you like to consume Fashion Week content, or are you even bothered? I'd love to know how excited or inspired you still are by Fashion Month. Then on to one of the most exciting product collaborations I think of last year. We saw Fendi times Versace. So Donatella Versace designing for Fendi and then Kim Jones designing for Versace into this mashed up, exciting hybrid selection of items. I love the bags, the Fendi style bags with Versace pins and Versace glitz and glamour all over them. It's just such a cool and new way to buy into these designers. I mean, I feel like there are so many product collaborations like this right now, and it's cool to see brands really letting down their hair and also giving up this almost unapproachable facade where they silo themselves in the industry and don't want to be compared to other brands, and how dare you wear one brand with a different brand's shoes because you're meant to only be styled in one full brand. And so it's so nice to see brands actually now coming together and showing that there is no, there is no real competition as such. All these brands can work together and create something pretty magical. In fact, just this morning I saw what Eva wears. If you don't follow Eva, she is just one of the most fantastic influencers to follow. Her Instagram is literally just what Eva wears, and she's just really interesting to follow, especially her stories. They're just, she's got a lot to say in the industry. And she this morning was talking about the Fendi Versace bags, and that led me down a bit of a rabbit hole where I was looking into them. Anyway, definitely have a little peek. I think the collaboration is really, really cool. Seeing as we talk about Fendi already, there was also then Fendi times Skims, and my goodness, why did I not get my hands on something? I'm a little bit gutted. I feel like I sort of missed the boat. I knew it was coming. I didn't think to look for it sooner, and I think now everything is sold out. Just a really cool collaboration, obviously, between Kim Kardashian and Kim Jones of Fendi, designing Kim's cool shapewear lingerie in Fendi styles. I'm just gutted I didn't get some. Did any of you get some? Let me know down below. Let me know what you think the quality's like, what the sizing was like, whether you're selling all of yours, are you a size extra small? I'd like it, please. Let me know what you think of that collaboration, because I thought it was really quite clever, to be honest. Then into November again, where once again there was a news headline that I was like, wow, what on earth has happened here? Where Daniel Lee suddenly exited Bottega Veneta. I remember a few years ago being at the Fashion Awards, and Daniel Lee won so many, must have been 5 at least, fashion awards for his work on Bottega Veneta and creating this powerhouse of a brand that once became quite sleepy and under-acknowledged in the wider kind of social space at least, and suddenly he was creating these beautiful mules and the stunning pouch bags, and suddenly Bottega was on the lips of everybody in the fashion industry. I mean, I now have 4 pairs of Bottega shoes and 2 of their bags. Whereas, I'll be honest, a couple of years ago, I wouldn't have even thought of stepping foot into a Bottega Veneta. That was just me, but I feel Daniel Lee really have reinvigorated and refreshed this brand into something so cool, something so modern, for the type of woman who loves her fashion, loves her career, and is just a very independent, confident person. It's just that very, again, very boss-like person that they're aiming for. That's so my inspiration, and so I love the brand. But he suddenly, and without warning and without any real explanation, left the brand. I remember texting with my friends, my friend Kyle especially, we were like, what's happened here? I wonder what's happened. Has he left on his own accord? Like, what could the story be? However, he is going to be succeeded by the design director, Matteo Blasi. So sorry if I've said that wrong. So they are at least keeping the designers in-house and succeeding Daniel Lee, but I'm excited to see what Daniel Lee does next. And then in September, right after New York Fashion Week, was one of the most exciting points of the year, the Met Gala. Now, I'd love to know, if you hark your mind back to that time 4 months ago or so, who was your favourite, most best dressed? I wish I'd done a video about this at the time. I must admit, I watched so many videos around that time about the Met Gala, because it always fascinates me, and the whole concept that they come up with where everyone has to dress in this certain theme. This year the theme was, in America, a lexicon of fashion. So I guess the themes could have been quite broad, as long as they fit into the very American fashion categories. So of course there were people that dressed up in like cowgirl, cowboy vibes, other people that dressed a little bit more Disney in their styling. Of course, I know a lot of the media were a little bit disappointed because there was a lot of themes that could have been carried out a lot more dramatically and excitedly, I suppose. But I must admit my favourite dress was Billie Eilish. I thought she looked absolutely incredible as an old school Hollywood starlet with the wonderful kind of Marilyn Monroe hair and this enormous, beautiful dress. I thought she looked phenomenal. So for me, she was best dressed. So I'd love to hear who your best dress was. Who did you think really paid attention to the whole theme and really, really nailed it? I thought Kim Kardashian in the full black suit from head to toe. The fact that people knew it was her just from her silhouette, I thought was absolutely genius. I know people were kind of iffy about whether they loved it or not, but I thought that was awesome. I mean, and then there was J-Lo in that enormous cowboy meets Hollywood glamour dress with a fedora. I mean, she looked badass, she looked awesome. So that was kind of cool. Anyway, that is everything that I kind of remember or that I've researched and thought were the most kind of substantially pivotal moments that happened in the 6 months that I didn't film these videos. So hopefully we're all kind of caught up and up to date and ready to move into a new year of fashion. So if there is ever anything you'd like me to touch on or talk about, or a story that you found super interesting, feel free to DM me. You know where I am on Instagram, feel free to DM me. I always love getting any kind of prompts or ideas for these videos of what you might find interesting, so let me know. But I'm so excited for this year. I'm excited to see what happens at Fashion Week. I'm excited to see what the creative directors of these brands bring out and bring us for this new year, where hopefully we can start to go back to even more normality this year. I'm feeling quite upbeat and hopeful, I must admit, about this year being a lot more normal and not so stinted by constant restrictions and movements. I really do feel that by the end of this year we might have somewhat of a normality back that isn't so restricted. Yeah, I'm just in a really good mood for it. I'm excited for this year, and I guess I hope you guys are too. So thank you so much for watching. If you are brand new here and you don't subscribe to me already, make sure you hit the subscribe button before you leave. It would be awesome to have you. And I guess if you enjoyed it, make sure that you do hit the like button right now. I know that I never really ask you to do that, but it would be super helpful if you do really like these videos and you do want me to continue them. Anyway, I've gone on for enough time now. I'll love you and leave you. I'll see you soon. Bye.